Hey there, friends. I'm so glad you're here with me today. Let's dive into something real and eye-opening together. Have you ever trusted someone completely, only to realize they've been hiding the truth right under your nose? I've been there, blindsided by lies I didn't see coming from people I never suspected. We all think we're great at spotting deception, but what if the signs are quieter than you think? A quick dodge, a nervous laugh, a story too perfect to be true. These tiny clues reveal more than words ever could. Stick with me, because by the end, you'll see through the facades and know exactly who's keeping it real or not. People lie more often than we'd like to admit, and it's not always strangers we should suspect. It could be a friend, a partner, or even a family member. We convince ourselves we're good at spotting deception, but the reality is we often miss the signs because we want to trust those closest to us. I've been there myself, thinking I could read people well, only to discover someone I trusted had been lying to me for months. The signs were there, small shifts in behavior, odd explanations, but I ignored them, not because I couldn't see them, but because I didn't want to. One of the clearest red flags I've come to recognize is when someone is quick to change the subject. You've probably experienced it. You bring up something important, maybe a question that matters to you, and suddenly they're dodging it like a pro, steering the conversation somewhere else entirely. It's like verbal dodgeball. 1 minute you're talking about something real, and the next, they're rambling about dinner plans or a random post they saw online. At first, it might seem harmless, even subtle. I once dated someone who did this constantly. Whenever I'd ask about our future, simple things like where we'd be in a year, they'd pivot to something trivial like what we should watch that night. I brushed it off, thinking they just weren't ready to talk. But they were never ready, and that was the problem. This isn't just distraction or forgetfulness. It's avoidance, pure and simple. People don't change the subject because they're scatterbrained. They do it because facing the truth makes them uncomfortable. They'd rather escape into a safer topic than deal with reality. And here's the tough part. We let them get away with it. We don't push because we don't want to seem overbearing or risk a fight. I did that too, convincing myself I was being too intense. But every time I let the conversation shift, I was giving them a free pass to keep me in the dark. It's not about the topic they're dodging. It's about what that dodge says about the relationship. When someone's quick to change the subject, it's a refusal to engage with the truth. They're choosing their comfort over your need for clarity, and that's a crack in the foundation of trust. I learned this the hard way. Each time I let it slide, I was silently agreeing to stay ignorant, hoping things were fine. But they weren't. A lie doesn't have to be a bold falsehood. It can be as quiet as a shifted conversation. The real danger is that we accept it, thinking it's no big deal. It is. So here's what I figured out. Don't let them off the hook. It's not about starting a confrontation. It's about demanding honesty. If someone values you, they'll face the tough talks, no matter how awkward. If they can't, you've got to ask what kind of bond you're really building. Truth, even when it's messy, strengthens relationships more than any dodge question ever will. Next time someone tries to sidestep, call it out. You deserve answers, not excuses. We all like to think we're good at spotting lies, but the truth is, people deceive us more often than we realize. Sometimes it's the ones we trust most, like friends or partners. I used to pride myself on reading people until I learned someone close had been dishonest for months. The signs were there, but I missed them, not because they were hidden, but because I wasn't really listening. That's where the second sign of deception comes in. Failing to listen to understand, and instead, just waiting to respond. Most of us don't truly listen. We're too busy planning our next clever reply, nodding along while our mind races ahead. I've been guilty of it, sitting in conversations pretending to care, but really just prepping my turn to talk. It's a habit that makes people feel invisible, and it's a fast track to missing the truth. When someone's lying, they're counting on you not hearing what they're really saying or not saying. Genuine listening, though, is a game changer. It's not just a skill. It's a way to show respect and build real connections. When you listen to understand, you're not just hearing words, you're catching the cracks in their story. I remember a colleague once who was clearly struggling. My instinct was to jump in with advice to fix it, but I stopped myself and just listened, No interruptions, no solutions, just attention. They opened up more than I expected, later saying, "I've never felt so heard." That stuck with me. People don't always need your opinion. They need to feel seen. And when they're hiding something, that's when you'll notice, because a liar doesn't expect you to dig past their surface chatter. If you're too busy crafting your response, you'll miss the hesitation, the dodge, the little tells that scream dishonesty. Here's the controversial bit. If you're not listening to understand, you're wasting your time. It's harsh, but true. I've sat through too many talks where I was half present, and it showed. People can tell when you're just waiting to speak. They feel it. It's not charming, it's selfish. But when you flip that and really tune in, you're not just honoring them. You're arming yourself to spot the lies. A liar thrives when you're distracted, when you're not picking up on what they're leaving out. Listening deeply strips away their cover. The deeper truth here is that in a noisy world, real listening is rare. We're bombarded with advice and opinions, but what people crave is understanding. I've learned that the hard way, I'm missing chances to connect because I was too focused on my next line. Now, I see it differently. Listening isn't just about them, it's about you staying sharp. It's how you see through the facade. So, next time you're talking, don't just wait your turn, listen. Really hear them. You'll be amazed at what you catch. The truth they're hiding or the trust they're building. Either way, you'll know where you stand. That's the power of listening to understand. It's not just connection, it's clarity. Lies are more common than we'd like to believe, often coming from those we trust, friends, partners, even family. I used to think I was sharp at spotting deception, but I was blindsided when someone I cared about lied to me for months. The signs were there, staring me in the face, but I ignored them, wanting to believe the best. One of the loudest red flags I've since learned to recognize is when someone gets defensive without cause. It's a dead giveaway that something's off. Picture this. You ask a simple, harmless question, like, "Did you finish that task?" And suddenly they're acting like you've accused them of treason. They launch into a heated defense. "Why do you always think I'm slacking? I've been working hard." It's an overreaction that feels out of nowhere, and it's not just weird. It's a neon sign screaming, "I'm hiding something." I ran into this once with a teammate on a group project. I casually asked, "How's the report coming?" And he'd snap back, "I don't need you checking up on me. I'm on it." Meanwhile, he'd been scrolling his phone in meetings. Later, we found out he'd barely started. His defensiveness wasn't about my question, it was about his guilt. Here's the controversial take. People who get defensive over nothing are usually the ones with something to hide. If they're innocent, they don't need to turn a basic query into a battlefield. Honest folks stay calm. They've got no reason to sweat. But a liar? They're on edge, waiting for you to catch them. I've seen it too many times now. That teammate's outburst wasn't about me being pushy. It was to try to keep me from digging deeper. And the worst part? We often let it slide. We back off, not wanting to seem rude, and that's how lies fester. The deeper truth is this defensiveness isn't random. It's human nature at work. When someone overreacts to an innocent question, it's their conscience talking, not their confidence. They're locking every door, hoping you don't have a key to what's really going on. I used to shrug it off, thinking maybe they're just sensitive. But after seeing the pattern, defensiveness followed by excuses, then the truth slipping out, I stopped buying it. It's not about you being out of line. It's about them dodging the spotlight. What I've learned is simple but bold. Don't ignore it. When someone flips out over a question that doesn't warrant it, step back and watch. What are they guarding so fiercely? Push a little, stay curious, because 9 times out of 10, that reaction is a smokescreen. I let it go with that teammate too long, and it cost us time and trust. Now, I see it differently. Valuing honesty means not letting overreaction slide. You deserve better than to be guilt-tripped for asking what's fair. So next time someone gets defensive without cause, don't retreat. Lean in. Their wall might crack, and you'll see what they're desperate to keep hidden. Truth doesn't flinch. It's the lies that panic. Deception is more common than we care to admit, often slipping past us from people we trust, friends, lovers, even coworkers. I used to think I could spot a lie a mile away until I realized someone close had been spinning tales right under my nose for months. The clues were there, but I missed them, too caught up in wanting to believe. One sign I've since learned to catch is over-polished details. Stories so perfect they feel rehearsed, like a script for a blockbuster film. You know the type. Someone tells you about their day, and every detail is pristine. The timing exact, the dialogue crisp, the ending triumphant. It's almost too good to be true. I had a friend, let's call him Jake, who was a master at this. He'd regale us with tales of big deals he'd closed, painting scenes straight out of a movie. The precise moment he signed the contract, the firm handshake, the city skyline glowing behind him. It was cinematic, complete with a swelling soundtrack in your head. But real life isn't that neat. When I started asking follow-ups, the edges of his perfect story frayed, details blurred, and the flawless narrative fell apart. Turns out, half was exaggerated, the other half pure fiction. Here's the bold take. Over-polished stories aren't just impressive, they're suspicious. Truth is messy, full of stumbles and imperfections. Liars, though, craft these glossy tales because they know we love a good story. We're suckers for neatness, for narratives that tie up nicely, and they bank on that. I let Jake's story slide at first. Who doesn't enjoy a little drama? But my gut nagged me. Life doesn't come with a polished brush, and when someone's account is too smooth, your lie detector should buzz. They're not just entertaining you. They're directing a show where they're the star, and you're the audience meant to applaud, not question. The deeper lesson hit me hard. Over-polished details are about control. They're selling you a version of events tailored to impress or deflect, and we buy it because the messy truth feels inconvenient. I learned this when Jake's stories unraveled under scrutiny. When I pressed for more, the cracks showed he couldn't handle the improv. Real experiences don't need a script. They're raw, chaotic, honest. But liars? They rehearse. They polish every corner until it shines, hoping you won't poke at the seams. Now, I don't just sit back and enjoy the tale. I dig, ask questions. If it's too perfect, it's probably fake. Relationships, whether with friends or colleagues, thrive on real, unfiltered truth, not fairy tales. I used to let those glossy lies pass, but not anymore. The next time someone hands you a story, so slick it could be a TED Talk, pause. Probe deeper. Truth doesn't need a spotlight to stand. It's the lies that demand a stage. Don't clap along. Challenge it. You'll find that perfection is a mask, and what's underneath matters more than the shine. Honesty, even when it's rough, beats a polished illusion every time. Lies sneak into our lives more often than we'd guess. Sometimes from the people we hold dearest, friends, partners, family. I once thought I was a pro at sniffing out deception, until I learned someone I trusted had been dishonest for months. The signs were right there, but I overlooked them, too eager to see the good. One subtle clue I've since tuned into is when someone's body turns away from you. It's a quiet signal, easy to miss, but it speaks louder than words. You've probably seen it. They're talking to you, but their torso angles elsewhere, like their mouth says, "I'm here," while their body whispers, "I'd rather not be." It's sneaky, almost instinctive. I had a friend who did this whenever we dive into personal stuff. At first, I chalked it up to bad posture or restlessness. Maybe he was just comfy that way. But it kept happening. Every time the conversation got real, his shoulders shifted, his feet pointed toward the exit. I didn't need a manual to sense something was up. Later, I found out he'd been hiding small lies. Nothing huge, but enough to chip at trust. His body spilled the truth before his words ever did. Here's the bold part. Body language doesn't lie like words can. When someone turns away, even slightly, it's their subconscious pulling back from the truth. People brush this off, say it's overthinking or no big deal, but they're wrong. I used to ignore it too, convincing myself it was meaningless. But after seeing it play out repeatedly, I can't unsee it. It's not just discomfort, it's avoidance. They're not facing you because they don't want to face what's being said or what they're hiding. We let it slide because calling it out feels awkward, but that's where lies take root. The deeper truth is about confrontation. When their body turns, it's not random, it's a shield. They're dodging the reality of the moment, and their posture betrays them before they even clock it. I used to second-guess myself, thinking, am I reading too much into this? But time proved me right. Those who physically distance mid-talk often have something to conceal. It's not always a grand deception. Sometimes it's just unease, but it's a flag. I learned that with my friend. His angled stance wasn't about seating. It was about keeping me at arm's length emotionally and mentally. Now, I don't let it pass. If someone's body drifts away while we're speaking, I take note. It's not about accusing, it's about seeing. Push a little, ask the hard question they're sidestepping, because honesty doesn't turn its back. I've stopped pretending it's nothing. That distance grows if you don't address it, eroding trust one subtle shift at a time. Next time you notice someone angling away, don't shrug it off. It's a cue, maybe not a lie outright, but a hint they're not fully in it with you. Truth stands square. It's the lies that slink off. You deserve people who face you, body and soul, no matter what's on the table. Dishonesty creeps into our lives more than we'd like to think, often from those we trust, friends, partners, even relatives. I used to believe I could spot a lie easily, until I found out someone close had been deceiving me for months. The hints were there, but I ignored them, clinging to faith in them. One telltale sign I've since picked up on is when someone laughs off serious topics. It seems innocent, even disarming, but it's a mask for something deeper. You've likely been there. You try to discuss something weighty, maybe a concern or a feeling, and they hit you with a chuckle, brushing it aside like it's trivial. I had a relationship where this happened constantly. I'd say, "I've been feeling distant lately, hoping for a real talk," and they'd laugh. "Oh, you're overthinking, chill out." That giggle wasn't just a quirk, it was a dodge. At first, I found it charming, a way to lighten the mood. But over time, every serious moment got the same treatment. Humor, sarcasm, a quick pivot. It dawned on me. They weren't easing tension, they were escaping accountability. Here's the tough truth. Laughing off serious stuff isn't always harmless. It's a red flag. We're wired to see humor as a gift, a tension breaker, and it can be. But when it's a go-to shield for dodging real talks, it's a problem. They're smuggling lies past you, wrapped in a joke, betting you won't push back. And most of us don't. We hate being the killjoy who presses after a laugh. I let it slide too, thinking maybe they're just not ready. But they never were. That laughter was a wall, keeping the truth at bay, and I was complicit by not calling it out. The deeper issue is emotional maturity. When someone giggles away the heavy stuff, they're signaling they can't, or won't, face it. Maybe it's fear of vulnerability, maybe it's hiding something they can't explain. In my case, it was both. Every brushed off talk left things unresolved, trust fraying bit by bit. I've seen this pattern elsewhere too. People using humor to make you feel like you're the intense one. But there's nothing wrong with taking things seriously when they matter. Now, I ask, why is this funny? It's simple, but it cuts through the act, exposing their unease. Real conversations aren't always light. They challenge us, push us toward honesty. If someone can't drop the laugh for that, what are they protecting? I learned the hard way. Letting it go keeps everything surface level. No growth, no clarity. Next time someone chuckles at a serious moment, don't let it pass. Press on. Ask why they're dodging. Truth isn't a punchline. It's raw, sometimes heavy, and worth it. If they can't handle that, they're not just avoiding the talk, they're sidestepping trust. You deserve more than a joker's facade. Laughter can lift, but when it's a crutch, it buries what needs air. Call out, because connection thrives on the tough stuff, not the giggles that gloss over it. Lies slip into our lives more often than we'd imagine. Sometimes from those we trust most, friends, partners, colleagues. I used to think I could catch deception easily, until I discovered someone I relied on had been dishonest for months. The signs were there, but I overlooked them, too willing to trust. One glaring clue I've since learned to spot is vagueness when pressed for specifics. It's frustrating, slippery, and a massive hint they're hiding something. Ever ask someone for details and get a fog of words instead? You want dates, names, facts, but they dance around it with broad strokes and no substance. I had a coworker like that, always hyping up big deals they were working on. I'd ask, "Who's involved? How's it going?" And they'd reply, "Oh, it's early stages, exciting stuff. Can't say much yet." Weeks later, same vague song. Turns out there was no deal, just bluffing to impress. When I pushed, the fluff couldn't hold. It was all smoke, no fire. That vagueness wasn't oversight, it was a shield. Here's the hard truth. When someone gets vague under pressure, they're likely lying. It's not just secrecy, it's evasion. Vagueness is a liar's lifeline, letting them wriggle free of accountability. Honest people don't need to hide in gray areas. They've got nothing to guard. Ask them for specifics, and they deliver, clear, no fuss. But a liar thrives on ambiguity, betting you'll be too polite to dig. I fell for it too, not wanting to seem nosy. We're conditioned that way. Pushing feels rude, but that's how they skate by. The deeper point is about trust. When someone won't get specific, they're chipping at the foundation of your relationship. My co-worker's hazy answers weren't just annoying. They were a sign he didn't respect me enough to be straight. Liars lean on your good nature, hoping you'll let it slide because clarity's awkward. I used to, until I saw the pattern. Vague responses, discomfort when pressed, then the truth trickling out. Now, I don't back off. That awkwardness, it's your cue to double down. People who dodge specifics aren't bad with details. They're scared of what those details reveal. We've all been vague ourselves, unprepared or unsure. But there's a difference. Honesty owns it. I don't know yet beats a cloud of nonsense any day. Liars, though, cloak themselves in fluff to stay in control. I've stopped letting it pass. If I ask for clarity and get a word salad, I push harder. Watch their reaction. Do they squirm, pile on more vague? That's your sign. Truth doesn't duck, it stands firm. You deserve answers, not a maze. Next time someone's hazy when you press, don't relent. They're building a wall to block you out, and if they won't tear it down, ask why it's there. Vagueness seems small, but it's a slow rot on trust. Demand the specifics, because real connection lives in the clear, not the cloudy. Lies don't always shout. They whisper through subtle cues. A dodged question, a polished tale, a nervous laugh. These signs, shifting topics, shallow listening, baseless defensiveness, perfect details, turned bodies, dismissed seriousness, vague answers. Hide in plain sight, daring you to notice. Don't flinch from the challenge. Ask the hard questions, peel back the layers, because half-truths erode what matters most. You deserve raw honesty, not polished evasions. People who can't face you with clarity don't belong in your circle. Stay sharp, demand the real, and let go of those who cloak deceit in shadows. Truth builds, lies just bury.